Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live and doing more at 4 weekday afternoons right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money. We're doing it live right here. 790 KBC streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And yes, of course, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Pullback on Wall Street today with both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ slipping from all-time highs. This as Wall Street focuses on the wave of corporate earnings this week and latest economic reports, including the big enchilada of monthly economic reports, which we'll be getting on Friday. That, of course, the monthly jobs report from the Labor Department. We're also getting set for the Federal Reserve's big event tomorrow, a decision on interest rates, a statement on the economy, and then a full-blown news conference from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. The Dow came in for a closing loss today of 204 points at 44,633. The S&P 500 down 19, back to 6,371, off its all-time high. And the NASDAQ down 80 at 21,098. The yield in the 10-year note now at 4.33%. We'll discuss the markets with veteran investment expert Jonathan HOENIG coming up here in just a moment. The Fed kicking off its two-day policy-setting meeting today. And we'll be getting a lot of economic reports as well, including a new reading on consumer confidence, which came out today. The Fed is widely expected to hold rates steady tomorrow. Investors still on edge, though, for any signs of economic weakness and the possible impact of tariffs on inflation. That'll be something that'll probably come up tomorrow during the Fed chairman's news conference. We did get job openings and hirings, both down in the month of June, according to today's report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The so-called JOLTS report showed job openings and hirings fell last month, setting the stage for the big jobs report, which we'll be getting on Friday. Consumer confidence did see an uptick in July, but concerns about job availability intensified, according to that reading. We're also watching what's happening on the trade front. President Trump's Friday deadline for trading partners to strike deals or face new tariff rates. Today, the folks meeting in Stockholm, that is the Chinese trade officials, along with U.S. trade officials, including the Treasury Secretary, no less, indicated that President Trump will make a final call on extending a tariff truce with China. So far, no deal. Treasury Secretary Besson suggesting adding another 90 days to the current suspension, with issues remaining minor and mainly related to the Chinese delegation, according to the latest reports from Stockholm, where they've been meeting for the last couple of days. On the earnings front, we see Boeing posting better than expected results. Weaker reports from Spotify, Merck, and United Health weighed on those names today. And Starbucks reported a sixth straight quarterly drop in same-store sales. Starbucks lines starting to thin out as the company deals with an uncertain consumer environment. CEO Brian Niccol continued his turnaround efforts at Starbucks. Looks like same-store sales fell 2%, according to the bean counters there at Starbucks. Starbucks stock down about 1% following that news. United Parcel Service also in the spotlight, down more than 9% as the company declined to provide a financial outlook for the upcoming quarter or full year. That's pretty significant. So we'll talk more about Starbucks here coming up in just a moment as well. Also, we're, of course, watching what's happening on the legal front today with a bunch of important legal matters to discuss, and we will do that with our Legal Eagle coming up here shortly, and that is the one and only Royal Oakes, longtime 790 KBC legal analyst. Big news today related to settlement involving UCLA agreeing to a $6.5 million settlement with Jewish students over pro-Palestinian protests. The lawsuit alleged protesters made anti-Semitic threats with the knowledge and acquiescence of UCLA officials. We're also watching another exchange of lawsuits here with the Trump administration suing California now over transgender athletes in girls' school sports. And the state of California is suing the Trump administration for pulling billions of dollars from the state's ill-fated high-speed rail project. The San Fernando Valley is dealing with a crime wave involving mostly home and business break-ins. I'll discuss what's happening there with the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former L.A. City Council member, former LAPD sergeant with 50-plus years of service to the City of Angels. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, and the whole works now. Joining us live, Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Jonathan HOENIG, good afternoon to you, sir.
Frank, it's great to be with you. So much to talk about, and as
Yep.
usual these days, the news really isn't so much coming out of Wall Street as Washington, D.C. EU is the United States' biggest trading partner, so the fact that a deal got done, and, think about how this has been all over the board. In July, it was going to be a 30% tariff. In April, it was going to be a 20% tariff. So I guess we're celebrating the 15% tariff, although, Frank, before Trump came to office, it was just about 2%. So Americans are going to be paying more under this scheme, but the fact that some tariff finality has been reached, I think, is being interpreted as a positive by the market.
On the air live with Jonathan HOENIG. Thank you for that assessment. Last week it was Japan, yesterday or over the weekend the EU, and now this week possibly China. What's your latest reading on the news out of Stockholm, where they're having that big trade meeting, where Treasury Secretary Bessent meeting with the top Chinese trade negotiators and talk about extending the deadline here that's coming up?
Well, trade is good, and, trade is beneficial for China. It's also beneficial for America. I think what's why, Frank, the worst of the worst so far this year came in April. I mean, you remember back then the market was down 18%, and that was the height of the president's so-called, reciprocal tariffs. So, I think the EU and the Japan deal have shown that some deal, whether it's 18%, 20%, 15%, what's interesting, Frank, is that the tariff that the president is settling on is not necessarily sufficient enough to achieve what had been put forth as the main goal, which was the reshoring of those so-called American jobs. So what you're going to see very often with these 10 and 15% tariffs is that the price will simply just be passed on to the consumer, and the great grand reshoring of jobs that would happen if it was a 40, 50, 60% tariff, that's not going to happen, at least not for now.
All right, and part of this deal that was announced with the EU is that the EU supposedly will buy $750 billion in American energy and make new investments of $600 billion in the U.S. by 2028. Do you see that happening, and who would be the winners in that arrangement?
Well, Frank, as you know, I'm always trying to look at trends, and a lot of the energy stocks, after being under pressure for quite some time, are showing some signs of life. One I like quite a bit is PSCE. That's P as in Peter, S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, E as in energy, PSCE. And it's actually an index of small capitalization energy stocks. So this isn't the big boys. This isn't the Exxon Mobils and the ConocoPhillips. These are the small names. And, Frank, we're always looking for those areas of the market that are doing well but aren't yet being talked about. So PSCE is one I'd put on your list. Do your own due diligence. But I think we're going to see higher inflation in the months to come, and names like PSCE, the energy names, will benefit as a result.
All right, that's very interesting. So inflation will be in the spotlight tomorrow. The Fed chairman will give an assessment on the economy. Then we'll be taking questions at the Federal Reserve. And as a $2.5 billion renovation takes place there, it was quite dramatic when President Trump visited the Fed last week and pointed to a bill that is a bill for the construction there. He gave it to the Fed chairman, showing that the bill is more like $3 billion. The Fed chairman bristled at that and said that was because another building was included in that number. But it looks like the Fed chairman has a job until his term ends, in May of next year. What about this ongoing drama here, and what do you expect to hear from the Fed chairman tomorrow?
The president's been very clear. He wants interest rates dramatically lower. Frank, the president has proposed a 3% cut in interest rates. That would be the biggest cut in American history, and actually put interest rates below the rate of inflation, which would be pretty inflationary when you think about our history, even in just recent years. So the president has some, pretty high demands of Jerome Powell. I think something that we can all probably agree on, Frank, is the need for an independent Federal Reserve. A Federal Reserve that's controlled by the executive branch. This is the stuff of tin-pot dictators. So, we all wish interest rates could be this, could be that, but, we have a system that is at least a quasi-independent system, and I do hope that President Trump does respect that. I think that the confidence of global markets depends on an independent Federal Reserve. So the president might, want to influence them or push them a certain way, but my hope is that his decisions and ultimately the Fed's decisions are respected and adhered to, at least for now.
And it appears that inflation is under control, even though gold has been hitting record highs. The precious metals have been moving up, which is usually an indicator of concerns about inflation. But officially, the numbers, despite all this tariff talk, have come in pretty tame as far as inflation is concerned. What do you think we're going to hear about, as far as that's concerned, potential inflation down the line here, and whether, in fact, tariffs will impact consumers? So far, we haven't seen that much.
No, you're right. But as my belief, Frank, is that price is primary. So I'm really looking at some of the prices, not just prices for goods, but prices for a lot of those commodities. As you said, I mean, gold not far from an all-time high. Platinum was up about 40% in 1 month. And we're seeing some of those rare metals, those battery-related and rare earth metals also tighten up in price. So my belief, and it's not one that's pretty popular on Wall Street right now, is that inflation is not dead. It's just lurking, maybe just quiet for a period of time. But Harvard Business Lab actually had an indicator out, Frank. They said the tariffed goods, those that are subject to tariffs, are up about 3% in price since March. Now, I know that's it's not 10 or 15%, but Americans are paying more for those goods subject to the tariffs. So, I think to suggest that prices are coming down is maybe perhaps a little more wishful thinking than anything else.
On the air live with Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News Business News as well, and also the book. In fact, we just heard the title of the book, Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Certainly we're watching crypto still hovering near all-time highs for Bitcoin here. Hit a record high just in recent weeks during that crypto week when which culminated with the president signing the Genius Act, which impacted the crypto industry. We're still waiting for 2 other crypto bills to be considered by Congress. But in the meantime, Bitcoin is still hovering at around, 117,500 or so. Ethereum has seen a huge pop, up around 3,800 here at last check. And even Doge has moved up to 22 cents again. What is your assessment here of what's happening with the cryptos?
There are no tops in a bull market, Frank. As the old saying is, as long as those assets continue to notch new all-time highs, the trend is their friend and the wind is at their back. And certainly the fact that the legislative work is being done in D.C., I mean, it's almost something you couldn't have imagined even 5 or 6 years ago when, crypto was a kind of almost a bad word, not just in D.C., but on Wall Street as well. So, I'm not fighting crypto. I can't say it's a major part of my practice over at capitalspig.com, but I think you have to respect the tape, and the tape, at least for now, is higher on crypto across the board.
And, of course, here on this program, we speak to the biggest fans of crypto as well as the harshest critics, and nobody's talking about how low Bitcoin can go, only how high it can go. Is that concerning? If you Google it up and see some of these almost hysterical predictions here, what's your reaction to these assessments?
Well, Frank, where most people lose money isn't that they make a bad investment or even that they buy an asset at the top. Where they really lose money is that they buy it, then it goes down, they buy more, it goes down, they buy more, and they keep adding and adding and adding to weak positions. So, as long as Bitcoin keeps hitting new highs, it's a good buy. But, if you buy an asset at 50, it goes to 40, the market's telling you something. At least for now, you're on the wrong track. So don't make that mistake of doubling down if and when Bitcoin ultimately goes against you. That could be every big loss starts as a small loss and an investor who had to be right. So respect the tape. When it moves against you, you got to be the first one to step inside and say, at least for now, I'm on the wrong track.
All right, and it's certainly a lot more fun when it goes up. And right now we're watching the S&P 500 and NASDAQ slip only slightly from the record highs following this really impressive rally that we've seen. We're coming up on August, which I know you follow history, which traditionally is not a great month for the stock market. What do you see ahead for this overall market, and are you taking any defensive positions in case there is a sell-off here? Are there any hiccups here on the trade front or anything else? What's your view on this market?
I think you want to still avoid, ironically, Frank, the large cap AI related names that dominate the indices. These are wonderful companies, but I think the juice, if you will, has been squeezed out. They're trading at historically very expensive valuations. I really think that there's money to be made, ironically, in China. And it's somewhat of a bad word in the Trump administration, I know, but even something like EWH, that's the ETF that tracks the Hong Kong market. EWH recently at a 20-day high. So that's one I'd put on my list, Frank. And don't ignore the global opportunity here. I know there's a notion of buy American, everything should be American, but we live in a global economy, and there's some extraordinary companies out there trading at massive historical discounts. I think this is really the year to diversify across the globe and to look for some international names. EWH is my top pick.
On the live with Jonathan Hoenig. Any other specific places where you are putting money now and or taking it off the table?
Well, the best place for income investors now, Frank, is one part of a portfolio. I still like this. It's a little bit off the radar screen, but ticker symbol is ILS. That is ILS. This is an ETF, Frank, that owns, are you ready for this? Catastrophe bonds. So basically, it's attuned to the weather patterns, and as long as there's not too many hurricanes in the Gulf this season, this is an asset that could pay off anywhere between 12 and 15% over the course of a year. So you know me, over at Capital Pig, we're always looking for those non-correlated assets. And ISL, that is one that I think I'd put on my list in terms of it's linked to catastrophe bonds. Could be a great income idea, even if the broader market goes south.
Very interesting. And what about the defense names? Certainly a lot of nervousness around the world, especially as it relates to Russia and Ukraine nowadays. It looks like we're getting to a critical point here with President Trump pressuring the Russian leader to get to the negotiating table. What about the defense names? RTX, formerly Raytheon, for example, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and so forth.
I mean, you'd think they'd be doing better than they are. Lockheed Martin is down by about 7% over the last 6 months. So, it's not really done much. The best of the bunch actually is Boeing, which has, been through the ringer over recent years. I mean, Boeing has really obviously faced a number of hardships and very serious issues with, planes crashing, et cetera. But Boeing is up by about 30% in the last 6 months. It's at a 20-day high and still well off of those all-time highs. So Boeing's my favorite defense name. You always want to do your own due diligence, but put that one on your list if you're thinking long-term.
All right, some of the economic bellwethers took a hit today. UPS, the shipping company, down nearly $11 today at $90.84. And if you saw what they had to say today, and also good old Starbucks, as I mentioned, the Starbucks lines are getting shorter. The stock was down nearly $1 today. What about those economic bellwethers, and are you reading into anything there?
Absolutely, Frank. I mean, a lot of what had been some hot names are cooling off. You mentioned a few, but how about Lululemon at a 52-week low? Chipotle Mexican Grill, CMG, at a 52-week low, or even Novo Nordisk. Now, Novo Nordisk, our listeners might not know the name, but they are behind one of the major weight loss drugs that has swept the country by storm. So all these names at 52-week lows. So the market is looking forward. It's looking for new names, and I think that's why this is going to be a year where names like NVIDIA, Facebook, wonderful companies, but I think you're going to want to look small, and I think you're going to want to look international to really make money in the next big bull market.
Terrific, Jonathan. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. I know you're a very busy guy these days. That is Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Jonathan, thanks again for coming to the line here this afternoon.
My great pleasure. Thank you, Frank.
Out to the freeways now we go on 790 KABC. Stocks pulling back from record highs today. The S&P 500, which started the day at a record high, down 19 points at the closing bell at 6,371. The NASDAQ, also at a record high first thing this morning, pulling back 80 points at the close at 21,098. The Dow down 204 points at 44,633. The volatility index moving higher today by 6%. The yield in the 10-year note now at 4.33%. NVIDIA, the magnificent one, which has been on a sizzling record-shattering tear in the last week or so, pulling back $1.24 today at 175.51. Apple down nearly 3, back to 211 and change. Netflix down nearly 6 today after a big run-up at 1,168 and change. We see Chevron shares of 75 cents at 157.03. Oil moving slightly higher, up 2 cents at 69.23 a barrel here in after-hours trading. Turning to the cryptos now, we see a Bitcoin up about $50 at 117,549. Ethereum at 3,777. Doge at the moment at 22 cents. And now the latest news on 790 KBC.
Vince Colonnese is redefining news talk.
Hi, I'm Vince Colonnese, host of the Vince Podcast.
These conversations where we can air all of this out without the filters, without the censors, without people with judgment, that's how you get a healthy country. Adult, reasonable, sober conversations. That's all I want.
In-depth interviews, live caller interactions, and a front row seat to the most important conversations of the day.
That's why I'm so grateful that we get to do this every day. You are really the best damn audience in media.
The Vince Show.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome to NFL Flag.
Are you ready? Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah!
No matter who you are, lace up your cleats, smear on your eye black, step out on the field and chase something. Chase a goal.
Let's get it!
Chase the big time.
Get that, ladies!
Chase rings.
Let's go!
Chase gold medals. Chase all of it. It's all up for grabs now. NFL Flag. Chase something. Visit NFLflag.com to find a league and start the chase today.
Mottek On Money continues, 790 KBC. Some important legal matters to discuss today. UCLA agreeing to a $6.5 million settlement now with Jewish students over pro-Palestinian protest. In the last year or so, that lawsuit alleged protesters made anti-Semitic threats with the knowledge and acquiescence of UCLA officials. University of California, Los Angeles will pay $6.5 million to settle the lawsuit by Jewish students, and a professor who said the university allowed anti-Semitic discrimination to take place on the UCLA campus during last year's pro-Palestinian protests. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is suing California over transgender athletes in girls' school sports, and the state of California is suing the Trump administration for pulling billions of dollars from the state's high-speed rail project. Joining us live now to tackle all of this, our legal eagle, Royal Oakes, Esquire, longtime legal analyst here at 790 KBC, co-host of the Too Many Lawyers podcast. And Royal Oakes recently received the highest honors at the Radio Television News Association of Southern California Golden Mike Awards. Royal Oakes, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Hey, my pleasure, Frank. Great to talk to you. Before we start on those stories, though, I've always wondered about something. You have a great conversation with Ben Stein occasionally, and you call it the Frankenstein conversation. How clever is that? Has Universal Studios ever threatened you with a lawsuit? Because, you know, they own the rights to Frankenstein.
Well, I need a good lawyer. That's why we're on the line with you.
I'm going to represent you pro bono, Frank. I'm not going to charge you a bit unless if you win. Of course, you can't win because they're suing you. All right. We'll meet them at the courthouse if they get you.
I'm going to dare to say it's Frank and then N. Stein. Frank Mottek and Ben Stein. That's what we're talking about here, folks.
I like that defense.
And Ben is a terrific guy and will hopefully be on again very, very soon. But now it's all you, Royal Oakes, and a lot to talk about. Very serious lawsuit settled now. This was really something here. UCLA agreeing to $6.5 million settlement with Jewish students over the craziness that happened last year during those pro-Palestinian protests on the campus. Tell us what we need to know about this one.
Well, you know, I spent 7 years at UCLA, Frank, undergrad and law school. And if you know the campus, the Royce Hall is this famous, beautiful building. And across the quad is Powell Library. So there's this wonderful grassy area between the two gigantic old buildings. And you may remember the pro-Palestinian folks took over the grassy area, the grassy knoll between the two buildings, and they put up signs, no Jews allowed, no Jews allowed. Oh, really? In America now? And what did the campus do? They said, oh, yeah, for safety purposes, we're going to go along with pro-Palestinian folks, and the Jews it's a no-Jew zone. Sorry, folks. Really? And so now they're paying for it, $6 million to settle it. All they had to do when the pro-Palestinian folks said no Jews allowed was to say, you know what? This can't stand. You are being moved out. You can't do this. It's anti-Semitic. It's against people's fundamental rights. So I'm glad to see them having to pay through the nose, even though, you know, it's going to probably make some of the folks that go to UCLA now pay a little more in tuition. But I just think it wasn't right what they did. And so I'm glad they're paying with the big bucks to settle the case.
unthinkable that this would be happening in the United States. And, of course, similar things were happening at other campuses. Protesters preventing Jewish students from accessing parts of the campus and making anti-Semitic threats to the Jewish students there. So that is a pretty significant settlement. Originally, UCLA was trying to fight this, right? But it looks like they have reached a $6.5 million settlement.
Yeah, so the deal is, it sounds legitimate for UCLA to have said, look, we want to protect people's lives. And if Jewish students are going to go into this area and get beaten up or something, we don't want that. So you understand that, but that's not the way. You don't coddle the anti-Semitic instincts of the pro-Palestinian protesters. Instead, you do whatever you can peaceably with whatever the police force you need to take down the protests and make sure that all parts of the campus are open to everybody, regardless of your religious preferences.
On there live with the one and only Royal Oaks, and let's go right down the line here on what I mentioned. The Trump administration now suing California over transgender athletes in girls' school sports. Tell us about this news here.
So the Trump administration has filed a federal lawsuit here in Los Angeles against the California Department of Education because California lets transgender girls, guys who were born guys but now say, okay, we're girls or women, and so the Trump administration says they should not be allowed to compete, and it disadvantages female athletes. Gavin Newsom has been kind of walking the line here. He's expressed some qualms about fairness, but he didn't want to support a ban. So this lawsuit has just been filed, Frank. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but the Trump administration is taking a stand. It's just not fair for young women and girls to work for 5, 10, 15 years to achieve a goal, a dream, and all of a sudden some person comes in who was born a guy who, let's face it, testosterone-wise, physically, the whole thing. They say when that guy was in college, now he says he's a woman, and he just blew away all the gals in swimming. And so basically he was maybe 300th or 400th best guy in the country. And because guys physically have stronger gifts and so on, he was number one in this collegiate area. And so he won all the women's college races. And so a lot of people get really angry and really emotional about how unfair this is. And that's what the Trump administration is doing. They're suing California to protect girls' sports.
And of course, Riley Gaines leading the charge on that issue. Certainly, things have changed dramatically in the last year or so on that issue. And are you noticing that in the legal matters related to all that?
Yeah, it's really a thorny, tough problem. If you accept the idea that people have a right to change their genders, and you don't want them to seem like weirdos or second-class citizens, you want to give them all possible rights. But you have to it's a balancing test. Do you really want to deprive biological women who have been women from the start of recognition and winning competitive athletic events? And so a lot of people are very troubled by the idea that guys born as guys can just say, okay, I feel like a woman now, and I'm going to scoop up all the gold medals.
On there live with Royal Oaks, Esquire. Another big case here, the state of California suing the Trump administration for pulling billions of dollars from the state's ill-fated high-speed rail project. We've yet to see any rail laid for this project. Royal Oaks, your reaction to this lawsuit?
So we approved the high-speed rail project in 2008, and the budget was $33 billion. And now it has gone from L.A. to San Francisco for $33 billion to 119-mile Central Valley segment, Merced to Bakersfield. Now, this is going to insult Mercedians and Bakersfieldians, but it's referred to as the train to nowhere. And now the projected costs are $135 billion for that. So the Trump administration is saying, you know what, we're pulling back $4 billion that was approved because you've missed deadlines, cost overruns, you have no viable funding plan. And Newsom is not taking it lying down. He's suing the Trump administration over the $4 billion cut. He said it was approved. We deserve the money. Once again, it's a brand new suit, so we don't know how it's going to turn out. But everybody's got a strong opinion about it. And it's, Frank, let's face it. You want to go to San Francisco, Southwest costs, I don't know, $90, $150, whatever deal you can get, and you're there in an hour. You really want to go from Merced to Bakersfield and then take buses north and south. It sounds like an idea that really ought to be shelved, but Newsom still wants to fight for it.
Royal Oakes, thank you very much for your timely legal analysis, as always, and longtime analyst here in 790 KBC. And I do want to extend my congratulations for your receiving the highest honors recently at the Golden Mike Awards, the RTNA, the Radio Television News Association of Southern California. I know you were surprised that night. I was at your table, so that was a tremendous honor. But congratulations on all your great advocacy on behalf of stations here, as well as doing a great job on the air on radio and television here in Southern California. So wanted to join the chorus of congratulations for you on that.
Oh, thanks, Frank. It was a great night, and it was great to see you. It was so much fun. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Royal Oakes, look forward to speaking with you again very soon live here in 790 KBC.
Nightly Scroll with Haley Caronia.
Hello to all my homies in the chat. I'm Haley Caronia with some very inconvenient truths.
Your go-to place for the hottest button issues.
Don't you hate when facts get in the way of a good news story?
Cut through the noise and get ready to scroll through the chaos of the modern world, one hot take at a time.
Hear me out. We might need to spread this information 24/7. Let's get into some scrolling time.
Nightly Scroll with Haley Caronia.
I love this place.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. The San Fernando Valley dealing with a crime wave involving home break-ins as well as business break-ins. Focus of attention lately has been on Encino, where there have been some serious incidents. A couple weeks after American Idol producer Robin Kay and her husband were shot and killed in their Encino home, there was another possible shooting next door, creating outrage in the Encino neighborhood, the White Oak Avenue area. A house party had to be broken up over the weekend, and that's been a big topic of discussion there. It looks like officers on horseback are now being called in to increase security in the Encino area. Joining us live now is the Honorable Dennis Zine, former L.A. City Council member, former LAPD sergeant with 50-plus years of service to the City of Angels. Dennis Zine is on the line with us. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Frank. Pleasure to be with you.
Great to have you with us, and give us an update on what's happening there in the Valley.
Well, Frank, the number one problem is there are only 8,725 police officers within the LAPD. That's from the chief of police down to the recruit in the academy, covering the entire region of Los Angeles City. Clearly, there's not enough personnel. And number one, when you don't have enough personnel, you can't do the patrols that need to be done and the special details that need to be done, so they continually make cutbacks. So the biggest problem they have is a lack of personnel. And as far as the 459s, the burglaries that are taking place, these are brazen activities taking place in this wealthy neighborhood of the San Fernando Valley. Brazen criminals, daytime, nighttime, they don't really care. They're using expensive cars, whether they're stolen or however they get the cars. They're using those. They cover the plates. And what we caution people in the neighborhoods is to watch out for your neighbor. The best alarm is your neighbors watching out for neighbors. These alarm systems that have the latest technology, they can be bypassed. The hardwiring system cannot be bypassed. So a lot of folks get these late model alarm systems, and the criminals have technology to bypass, so the alarm will not activate. So there's a lot of problems with it. Meanwhile, the LAPD is doing what they can with their limited resources. When I say limited, I'm not exaggerating. They don't have a lot of personnel. The mounted unit is a wonderful unit, but it's not like the old Wild West where they're going to be able to cover every street in the hot weather of the San Fernando Valley with those horses. It's visible patrol. But what they really need and what they've used in the past is officers in plain clothes to go into the neighborhood and obviously see what's taking place and then hopefully make arrests on some of these criminals who are committing these brazen burglaries and stealing all types of things from furniture to fur to safes, watches, you name it, and they're stealing the items within the residence. And we know south of Ventura Boulevards is a lucrative area, a wealthy area, and that's where the burglars go to prey on the innocent victims that live in that territory of the southwest San Fernando Valley.
And it's been heartbreaking to hear a lot of people complaining that when they call the police, in some cases they're told to just go online and fill it out. And as you said, LAPD stretched pretty thin, but that must be pretty frustrating to hear that when you call the police and say, just fill it out online. You've probably responded to countless calls like this. So what is your advice for people in that neighborhood?
Well, the number one thing is to make sure your home is secure, but it doesn't matter. They're breaking in windows. They'll go through the glass doors, but have neighbors watching. When you go away, let your neighbors know. I know many people who go out to dinner, they come back to homes been burglarized, but be watchful within your neighborhoods. But as far as the technology, alarms are great. A lot of people want to go out and get a gun, and under the current laws, you can get a gun, you can get a CCW. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to store it. So that's a problem that can also be a huge situation that you can get into and get yourself harmed. But there's just the only thing it's going to take is time to apprehend these people. And hopefully with our district attorney, who we know is a very strong prosecutor, we can put these people away and not give the merry-go-round as we used to see with Gascon. They go in and out, in and out, and in and out, no consequences. But at least we have a great DA. We need more officers. Clearly, 8,725, when you have that number and you've got this massive population that encompasses nearly 4 million people in the city of Los Angeles, not including the visitors that travel through, you're really outnumbered. So keep an eye out for your neighbors. Keep a watchful eye. If you see something, call. But when you call 911, understand they're short of operators. They're short of dispatchers. So sometimes the phone rings and there's no one answering the phone. So seriously, it's a major problem in Los Angeles, and I tell people, be careful, be watchful, protect yourself, protect your neighbors, and hopefully you can prevent that from happening in your particular neighborhood. But the Southwest Valley is being heavily hit by these 459s, these burglary suspects, and the police are doing what they can, but again, very limited resources.
And I saw that the president of the Encino Neighborhood Council was speaking out recently on one of the stations, and it's just really heartbreaking what's happening. And then you got these big house parties, and that shooting reported near the place or next to the place where that TV executive and husband were killed.
Yeah, they were both murdered inside their own residence when the burglars were there. But I've seen some recent video where these are happening in the daytime, not just nighttime, but daytime burglaries. They're high, expensive cars. The license plates are covered. You see that, call immediately. Get whatever kind of description you can get. I wouldn't suggest approaching those individuals, but get whatever kind of description you can get. Let them know that you're watching, because the deterrent means that they'll hopefully go someplace else. But they go where there's a lucrative neighborhood, and clearly that is. And I would also question their city council member, who I understand hasn't done much to help the police in doing what they need to do to protect that neighborhood. I've got complaints from the neighbors in that area that their city council members doing nothing to assist the police in this endeavor of bringing down these burglaries and these crimes in that area of the southwest San Fernando Valley.
The Honorable Dennis Zine, thank you very much for coming to the line, and Godspeed to the LAPD mounted platoon now being mobilized there in Encino to thwart any more criminal activity there. And Godspeed, Dennis Zine. Thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon on Mottek On Money. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz, and I'll be back with more at 4 tomorrow afternoon right here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC.
Hello, my loves. It's Lala Kent. Yes, that Lala. And if you're not listening to the Give Them Lala podcast, here's what you're missing out on.
I stayed with my two kids. Mom and Kristen shared a room, and you and Landon shared a room. What the hell is going on? A lesbian couple, a gay couple, and then this
random woman with two kids.
So weird, but to me, it's the most common thing. This is my brother, his best friend, and my mom and her best friend. This is just how we roll. This is called The Pod, okay?
Give Them Lala. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.